Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. The last interview of the year, the first interview of 2014. This is the interview that's going to take place the week of New Year's. So New Year's Day, you won't see a new video because I think this is going to be very compelling. It was last year, and I suspect it will be this year. The guest is Gerald Celente. He is the publisher of the Trends Journal. Gerald Celente, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Well, thank you for having me, Greg.
Well, I want to start. There's so many questions, so many things going on. One of the predictions you had last year, and it almost came true, and I hate to say this, but I'm glad you were wrong, with war in the Middle East. The Syrian thing was close. We were close to having a knockdown drag-out with Russia, China, us, everybody in the Middle East. They came up with this gas thing. But let's start with the Middle East. The Middle East looks like there's troubles in Turkey. Saudi Arabia is upset with the warming up between the U.S. and Iran. Hamas is firing snipers and rockets into Israel. Egypt has been in turmoil now. The Muslim Brotherhood is now a terror organization. Let's start with the Middle East. What's your forecast trend for 2014?
More of the same and worse. The civil war in Syria is only getting worse. And, of course, there's Libya. You remember that humanitarian mission? Or I think the proper language was time-limited, scope-limited kinetic action, in the words of El Presidente of Los Estados Unidos, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. And that's up for grabs. There's total chaos. It's a civil war. You mentioned what's going on in Egypt. There's no end in sight. It's only going worse. But it's also very important to know that, again, I'm a political atheist. I don't take sides on these issues. The Muslim Brotherhood was a duly elected government. And now, of course, it's a military takeover. But don't call it a military takeover, girls and boys. That's right. The United States said it's not. So it only looks like a military coup. It smells like a military coup. And the people that were also involved in overthrowing Mubarak, it feels like a coup to them, too, because they're in jail as well. So it's not only the Muslim Brotherhood, it's anyone speaking up, standing up, and taking a stand against the military government of Egypt. And then you go to Yemen. Hey, any more drones this week? Wipe out any more wedding parties? Nobel Peace Prize winner. So you go around Bahrain. You look at what's going on, as you mentioned, with Saudi Arabia. I mean, who is this? The Crown Prince. How about Clown Prince? Who are these Saudis shooting their mouths off, telling Americans what we should do, who we should be supporting, and why what we're doing isn't in their interests? And anybody heard of an independent nation that we have to be taken as kind of garbage from I love the word prince. What am I, 6 years old? What is it, a fairy tale? Once upon a time there was a kingdom, and in the kingdom was a prince. Could any adults say a dictatorship? And they're telling us what to do? And as I mentioned, you just keep going around the Middle East. It's total turmoil. You mentioned what's going on in Turkey. The Turkish lira has crashed. It's at all-time lows against the dollar. As a matter of fact, it's pushing up the euro. That's how bad it's going over there. Money's flowing out of Turkey into the neighboring states and countries. So then we also look what's going on right around the area in Ukraine. I love it. They want to join the European Union. Oh, yeah, you want to be like Greece? Or maybe Spain. Man, you like that one, huh? Hey, how about Portugal or Ireland? 40% unemployment rate in Italy, youth unemployment. That sounds like a good EU deal to me. And then you look at Romania, look at Bulgaria, look at the pitchfork revolution going on in Italy. Look what's going on in Thailand. Look what's going on around the world. Look what's going on in Argentina, in Brazil. People are taking to the streets everywhere, in Mexico. outraged over the taking of the people's private assets, their precious petroleum, and now privatizing it. That's one of my favorite terms, privatize. Take valuable state and public assets and sell it to your buddies for pennies on the dollar and get a nice kickback. We'll call it privatization.
Well, you know, I want to come back to the Middle East. Whenever I make a comment about Israel, people think I'm anti-Israel. Whenever I make a comment about Iran, people think I'm anti-Iranian. I'm kind of like you. I'm just looking at the facts, and I just think we're inching towards war all over the Middle East. I mean, there were reports even in the mainstream media that France may invade Syria because their economy is awful. Unemployment is picked up. Their economy is plunging. Things are bad. Some of the biggest banks are in France. But I want to get back to the Middle East. Could this be the year that your war prediction comes true for whatever reason? Israel, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Russia, Iran, whoever starts it or wherever it started. Could this end up being the year your predictions of past come true? Almost came true last year. Almost had war with Syria, moving all of our U.S. ships into the Eastern Mediterranean, and the Russians, flexing their muscles. And what's your prognosis for the Middle East? Will it be war, and will it be a world war?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, who'd have thought that Putin would have pulled it off, or the British Parliament would have said no about going to war when Cameron was ready to march in, as was Obama, and you mentioned Hollande and France. They can't get over they can't get over their colonial trip over there, They love that French Sudan thing. It tastes good to them, and they can't get the flavor out of their mouth because they're also in Central Africa and Mali, as you mentioned. I don't know, but I do know this. I do know that there was just an assassination in the former ambassador to the United States in Lebanon was killed. I also know that I love that term, by the way, settlements. They're going, it's a real estate development. Another big real estate development was just announced in Israel, taking more Palestinian land. So that issue's not going to go away. It's only getting much worse. So will it happen this year? I don't know. I would have thought it would happen last year. But again, there are the wild cards. Oh, by the way, the Putin wild card, if you want to play another one, hey, they just signed a deal for gas and oil exploration off the coast of Syria. What a surprise. So it all comes down to money. And Russia has a lot of interest in what's going on around Syria, so does China. But I don't know. I don't know if there'll be something this year that'll be the tipping point. And most likely it will happen in the Middle East. Oh, and by the way, the thing about with Iran, again, this is all about money. It's not about, Iran having a nuclear capability. And you look at who's against the countries that are against Iran the most. Of course, it's the Sunni Arabs of the Arab League.
That's where Saudi Arabia comes in. I mean,
exactly.
That's pretty frightening. Saudi Arabia bought $60 billion worth of arms. I'm sure they didn't get them all in one day. And I would suspect they probably got most of their $60 billion in arms. 84 F-16 fighters. Saudi Arabia.
And that's what I was going back to. It's all about money. And it's another military-industrial complex deal. And on the other side of the coin is once Iran starts dumping oil into the marketplace, it's not going to be good for the Arab League because it's going to drive the price of oil down. Considering they're sitting on either the second or third largest reserves in the world. So this has to do mostly with money. And when you get to the bottom, it's the bottom line. Just like I said, I love this term, what they use. And I'm not anti-Semite, so I don't want anybody saying it. I talk about my country. Israel's a country. It's not a religion. The American's a country. It's not a religion. So it's a real estate deal. They call them settlements. It's all it is. It's always about money. So whether it's the United States doing a deal with the Saudis, and as you mentioned, with the tens of billions of dollars worth of military-industrial complex deals, whether it's the Russians doing a deal with Syria, as they're now doing with oil and gas exploration. It's the bottom line, and it's what it's been forever.
Well, let's talk about the economy, because you've said on more than one occasion, when the economy's something to the effect, I don't have a direct quote, but when economies start getting into trouble, they take us to war. And boy, I mean, look at the economies of the world. Nobody's getting better. There's a burgeoning real estate bubble in China. Japan is openly wanting inflation. France's economy is tanking, as is a lot of the southern European countries. The U.S. Seems to be desperate with their quantitative easing. A lot of folks say that this is going to be a complete role reversal in the first quarter of 2014, that they'll be pouring the coals to the fire, even greater amounts coming up. What do you think about, let's start with the United States economy. What do you think about the U.S. economy in 2014?
Well, you mentioned China and the United States economy. They're all connected. What's going on in China? Interest rates are going up. The yuan's at an all-time high. They have a cash crisis going over there, and they're doing the same thing that the Federal Reserve did over here. They're saying that they're not doing it. They even have blackouts on it. Their central banks are pumping dough into the Chinese system, and they have a huge credit bubble that's ready to burst. You're seeing, short-term notes hitting all-time highs again. Then you come over to the United States. Look what's happened. Look at the 10-year bond yield. Hey, all of a sudden it popped over 3%. Oh, I thought they were going to be able to keep interest rates low when they started the tapering. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Interest rates are going to go up. If they taper again, and I believe they are, by the way, I think they're going in mid-January. You're going to see another round of tapering. You're going to see interest rates go up. So where's the economy going? You don't have to be an Einstein to figure this one out. Matter of fact, you don't even have to be as stupid as Ben Bernanke, who, according to the Wall Street Journal, called just about everything wrong to figure this one out. When interest rates go up, the economy goes down. Period, paragraph. Hey, Greg, you want to buy a new automobile? 0 down, 0% interest. Don't worry about it. You don't have any creditworthiness? Call this number. We'll find you a dealer near you. No income verification needed. You're dealing with 0% interest. Look, once you start seeing the 30-year notes start going up on mortgages, once they get around 4.85, 5%, you're going to see this so-called housing recovery go into reverse. You look what just happened with Christmas sales. They went up a roaring, depending on whose numbers you're looking at or who's lying, around 2.5%. Look at median household income. It's 8.3 to 8.6 below 2008 levels, and income gains in November went up a grand total of 0.2% after declining 0.1% the month before. The more they taper, the higher interest rates go. The higher interest rates go, the lower the economy. So here's my forecast. As I said, I believe they're going to institute more tapering in mid-January. It's going to create a financial crisis worldwide. By the way, that's one of the problems going on in Turkey. Erdogan, the prime minister, is blaming the interest rate lobby for raising interest rates and stopping their economy from growing. You're going to see all this hot money flowing out of these emerging markets. And then I believe what they're going to do is they're going to come up with another scheme. They'll make up another lie. They'll call it something else. Rather than quantitative easing, Uncle Frank's money supply, whatever they're going to make up. And they're going to dump more dough into the system. When that happens, that's when you're going to see the real panic start to happen. that's when you're going to see gold prices start escalating again. As a matter of fact, I believe that when the next round of so-called quantitative easing, whatever the countries decide to call it, you're going to see a rise in gold prices that's going to eclipse the last one.
Yeah, so you're bullish on gold and silver. You think precious metals are going to go much higher in 14?
Yes, I do, as they come with another round of quantitative easing. Now, again, that is without that other card that we were playing, and that's the war card. Because, as I mentioned, when all else fails, they take you to war. And you were mentioning briefly about Japan. Boy, that guy Abe, the prime minister over there, can't get over that World War II trip. Just made a visit to that wonderful shrine where they have a couple of dozen war criminals. Oh, yeah, you like that one? Well, we got a new one coming. Oh, things don't look so well over there? I got it. Let's expand the military. And that's already heating up between China and Japan. That thing goes into a war. I mean, it's a whole new game. And the United States just signed a new deal with Okinawa. Hey, you can't fix Detroit? I got a better one. Let's build new bases on Okinawa. We got plenty of dough to waste, along with a $13 billion aircraft carrier named after Gerald Ford. So what I'm saying is, absent the war card, we're going to see a financial crisis I believe is going to happen before the end of the second quarter of 2014.
What about you've talked about bank bailouts. So you're saying they're going to taper, things will get bad, they'll reverse course, they'll pour money into the market. And you're saying at that point, people will panic into the gold market.
Yes. And you're already seeing it happening in China. Everybody knows about the empty Chinese cities. Everybody knows about the mountains of debt from the shadow banking. Everybody knows that they have to keep pumping money in, and if they don't, the system collapses, like it almost did this past June, but that's not news anymore. And the Chinese government had vowed in late May, early June, that they were not going to stimulate the economy anymore and dump money into the shadow banking system. As soon as it started to rattle, the money started pouring in. And so as we're going into the new year and it's holiday time, people aren't hip to what's going on in China right now. And again, the Chinese media have made it very clear, the government, that the media not talk about this and call it a cash crisis. And not to, in their words, not to overblow it. It's not being overblown. There's a huge debt bubble there ready to explode.
So what happens with bank bail-ins, where we have 10.8 trillion, or more than 10 trillion on deposit? We have around 33 billion in the FDIC. Those are some scary numbers. 33 billion to insure 10.8 trillion. That's like $33 to insure $10,800 worth of risk. But so what's your prediction or trend for the banking system here in the U.S. and depositors' money?
Yeah, I don't trust any of it. Why should I? I mean, they rigged the LIBOR rates. We all know that. They rigged the Forex rates. You know, now they're finally looking into the rigging of gold. And so I believe there's going to be major problems. And when they happen, what I believe they're going to do is just keep printing money. And they'll just keep printing money and to make it look like there's not a run on the bank. And the meanwhile, they're devaluing our currency. Look, who would have believed that the dollar, is around 138, 139 to a euro? Why? Things are so wonderful over there in Europe. You mentioned what's going on in France. They're in a recession. And that moron Hollande is talking about now going into, deeper into Mali, into Central Africa, and now again talking more about Syria. And his ratings are at all-time lows. And it's the same thing around the world. So, will there be a banking crisis? Yes. Will they be able to cover it up to an extent? But they cannot fix the problem. And the problem is, far too few have much too much, and way too many have much too little. And you're seeing a concentration of wealth, the likes of which we've never seen, in the last 100 years. Not only in the United States, this is a worldwide phenomenon. So there's going to be a lot of banking pressures. Name a country. They're going to have them.
So are people going to go to a U.S. bank and they're going to say, oh, sorry, you can only have $200 today. You can have $200 tomorrow. And maybe next week, maybe $100 a day. Are people going to get shut out of their money? Are they going to actually take people's accounts? I mean, how do you envision this, for the street level person going to their bank saying, yeah, I'd like to have $10,000. Are they going to give it to them?
They'll do like they did in Cyprus. Cyprus, to me, was the canary in the mine cage. We'll give you a little bit when we want to give it to you. They've done it before in this country. They had bank holidays in the 1930s, right? So why can't they do it again? Why won't they do it again? And now, of course, it's much easier because so few control so much. What do you have, 6 banks controlling, what, 70, 80% of all the wealth? 7 banks? So it's very easily done. Look what happened with this thing with Target when with the credit card problem. All of a sudden now you're going to have trouble, getting your money. So it could be a cyber attack. It could be a false flag. It could be real. They'll do what they want. The United States is not the country it used to be. And so look, as we're looking at this whole NSA issue, it was this judge that just ruled this moronic thing that the NSA has the right to spy on us. Who are these people? They should be thrown out of the United States of America for destroying our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, whose foundation is etched in stone. We got some sick SOB. Here comes the judge. Here, try that, judge. What is this, the Soviet Union? Well, they put another S in USSA? How can they make this up? And the people tolerate it? Of course they'll rape you. They'll rob you. They'll send you to wars to fight in lying wars. You didn't like Vietnam? The Gulf of Tonkinlai wasn't good enough for you? Oh, you want another one? How about Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda? Oh, look what's going on over in Afghanistan. Longest war in American history. And it keeps on going. I tell you, you elect me, we're going to be out there by 2014. Well, maybe 2024. I got my numbers wrong. And now we got these clowns that call themselves judges. Look at the people. Look at this guy Clapper. This guy, Marvel comic books couldn't come up with a better character. I thought they gave up after Penis Cheney. Or is it Dick Cheney? I mean, how can they make these people up? Pelosi, Boner, McConnell, Reid, Obama, Clinton, Christie, Cruz. When are the people going to have enough? And that's why you see revolutions going on around the world. Whether it's the pitchfork revolution in Italy, whether it's the uprisings going on in Ukraine, whether it's the people that refuse to leave the streets in Thailand, whether it's going on in Greece and in Spain and in Portugal, with demonstrations and riots continually. When Bulgaria, Romania, who cares about them? They don't make the news at all.
So coming back to the banking crisis real quick. I just want to finish it. How should people protect themselves? Should they hold cash? Should they hold gold, silver? Should they pay off their car? Should they go buy a new set of tires for their car? I mean, should you hold food? I mean, we just had a big Wall Street financier say that you need a bug-out bag and you need some food, water, and a gun. And lots of ammunition. I'm not kidding. This is on mainstream media. This is the Washington Examiner. I mean, and also Gordon Brown coming out in the op-ed piece saying we're stumbling towards a crash. I mean, did somebody give him a big green light to, go ahead, warn everybody we're going to have a crash? Are you thinking that, are you with Gordon Brown that we're stumbling towards a crash in 2014? And will it be global?
Of course I am. Yeah, look, I made up the Gerald Celente's GC's 3Gs, guns, gold, and a getaway plan. It's only about 5 years old, but some clown from Wall Street says that now it's news. So of course you should have it. I don't tell people what to do. I don't give financial advice. Only speaking for myself. That's it. Guns, gold, and a getaway plan. I'm 4.5 hours away from Canada. What if there was a 9/11 incident and they start whacking off nuclear power plants? You think I'm going to hang around? I'm going to get out of here. I had a friend, a French woman, and her aunt was 14 years old when she woke up in the morning, Parisian, and the Germans were in Paris. And I said to her, Martine, I said, you came from a very wealthy family, you know, well-to-do. I said, you're very educated people. I said, how come you didn't leave before the Germans came? And she said to me, Gerald, she said, the people that thought they had too much to leave behind stayed behind. I'll never forget those words. If things get really out of hand, you know, you better start making a plan. Or if things go the way they should go and the human spirit raises to the levels where it should be and the people find courage, dignity, respect, and integrity within themselves, they'll say, stop, no more, we've had it. We're bringing the government back to where it's supposed to be. Number one, we're bringing home all our troops. We're going to defend America, not the world. We're doing a lousy job at it. All it is costing us money and lives and a lot of hatred. We're putting the Constitution back in order along with the Bill of Rights. We're rebuilding America from the bottom up. And that's the only way it's going to change, as I see it. Grassroots. Grassroots everywhere. And we could have it. If you could do it in Thailand, you could do it in Italy, you can do it in America. I mean, after all, we were the beacon of freedom and liberty that the world looked up to. And it's about time we do it again. And again, to me, these aren't political parties. They're mobs. They're the Bloods and the Crips. Does that sound harsh to you, Greg? The Bloods and the Crips being murderers and thieves? How about the murderers of America? How about the millions of people that they've killed in wars that people never started against us, like the Iraq War and the Afghan War? How about thieves? How about too big to fails where they steal our money and they give it to their banking buddies? How about thieves where they put interest rates at zero so the common person can't put money in the bank anymore and get a return on it, is being forced to speculate in the markets? And that's the only reason why the markets are going up, is because of all the hot money going in. So yeah, it could change. It'll change when the people change. And I'm looking at change in 2014.
Real quick, up or down, stock market, 2014?
Well, as long as they keep pumping money into it, the market goes up. Interest rates go up, the market goes down. Simple as that. No money going in, no market going up. The only reason the markets, look, you don't have to look over here. Look at Japan. You mentioned the inflation rate going up over there. Even the trillions of yen that they've been dumping into it to pump up the economy is barely moving it. But boy, look at that stock market. So it's the same thing. The money is going into the markets. As long as there's cheap money, the markets keep going up.
So if you could sum up what you see in 2014, trends, in a sentence or two, how would you sum up your view going into 2014?
A year of extremes. You're going to start seeing extremes happen a lot, where it's going to feel like, wow, how did I get here? And then you go there again. So it's going to be it's going to be a very volatile year.
Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal, who both ends and begins the year. Ends 2013 and begins 2014. Gerald Celente, thank you for coming on USAWatchdog.com and giving us your trends for 2014.
Thank you, Greg, and Happy New Year to you and everyone listening.